And I grew up in a very dysfunctional, abusive household. Self-medicating was kind of something I did with my emotions to not feel them through my adult years because I didn't know how to cope with them. So I tried everything else to do, and I didn't know what else to do. Coming to that realization that I just needed to stop. I also grew up with the saying that money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, that's not true because money is paper. Give yourself the permission to live the life you want and to have those experiences and to travel and to have the freedom that you want. You do not need to wait for permission. You do not need to wait for somebody else to tell you it's okay. You make it okay.
As an entrepreneur with a global team, one of my biggest challenges was managing international payments. I was stuck with high fees, slow transfers, and endless complications. Whether it was paying my team in the Philippines or buying products from Japan, I tried multiple banks and services like PayPal, but nothing seemed to work. Then I found Wise. The savings have been huge, and transfers that used to take days now happen in hours. It's fast, simple, and has become a vital part of my business strategy. If you're not using Wise for international payments, you're missing out on a game changer. Click on the link in the description to get started with Wise today. There comes a point in life where everything you've built suddenly falls apart. The identity you lived in, the career you relied on, the version of yourself you thought was permanent. In that moment, you can fight to hold on, or you can let the collapse become the doorway to your most liberated, powerful chapter. Today's guest chose the doorway. She didn't just rebuild her life, she rewrote it. From grief and burnout to global travel, passive income, and radical self-worth. Her transformation is a masterclass in courage and reinvention. This episode is about identity, money, midlife awakening, and the freedom that comes when you stop trying to return to who you were and decide to become who you were meant to be. Please welcome to the show, Tina Coleman.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Your story isn't just about surviving, it's about creating a completely new life blueprint. When everything collapsed, your parents, your career, your identity, tell us about that journey and what was the moment you realized that you didn't just need healing, you needed freedom?
It was really hard, to be honest, especially living in it because everything happened so suddenly and I was not prepared for it. And, when you lose your parents very quickly, there's no time for closure. And so that really threw me. And that led to me going down a very dark path and drinking. And there came a time where I was like, what is it that I want? And one of those things was to travel. And so I did that. And then what came later is that like I needed to heal from my car accident because it ended my 20-year career. And I held on to that for as long as I could. But I was in so much pain all the time. I was finally like, I need to heal. I need to let this go. And it took about 2.5 years to come to that realization. And then I was like, I'm going to move to Mexico and we're going to do this because this is what brings me joy and this is what I want.
Wow. So take us back to that journey. I mean, like, I know that for those that don't know the story, you lost both parents before 40 and you went through a dark spiral, dark period. Can you take us through a little bit about that journey and then from there, how you transformed?
Yes. Well, it was really interesting because they were both very abrupt. I lost my stepfather the day after Thanksgiving. I got the call that he had an aneurysm and was in the hospital, and so of course I had to fly back to Iowa because I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. And it seemed like there was a period of time where a couple of years, every time I went back, it was for an emergency. It was for a hospital or a funeral or something. And then 6 months after that, I got the call that my mother had fallen, which was not uncommon. Like she'd had surgeries and this and that and was not the healthiest person. And they're like, no, this is serious. And so by the time I got back to Iowa, I flew out the next day. There was nothing we could do. She had fallen and basically broken her, had broken cervicals in her neck. And so she went into a coma. So it was very sudden and very unexpected. And so the one thing that me and my siblings could agree on, because usually there's not a whole lot we agree on, it was that we weren't going to keep her on life support. So, and that was a very unanimous and easy decision, which sometimes that's not. But the doctor said if she actually stayed, then she would probably be a quadriplegic. And so that would make anybody very happy. And she was not the happiest person to start with. So, but it was really hard because something I explore in my book is the bond between a mother and her daughter, because there is something that happens when you lose your mother. That is the person that made you. That is the person that brought you into the world. So on a cellular level, you feel it. And I was really surprised because I'm a lot like her, so much like her. But even at the funeral, people were like, "Oh, people hadn't seen me since I was like 5. They're like, you're Marilyn's daughter." I'm like, "Yes, I am." Because I just look so much like her and I have so many of her mannerisms. So it's like when part of you dies, you feel it on this really intense level. And so that really surprised me. And I did not think that losing her would affect me that as hard as it did. But it took me some years. I actually did fall down the slippery slope. And I grew up in a very dysfunctional, abusive household. And so with alcoholics, my mother was not, but whoever she dated, my husband, or her husband always was. Um, so I have alcoholism on both sides of my family. And so self medicating was kind of something I did with my emotions to not feel them through my adult years because I didn't know how to cope with them. And so actually having to go through that and not knowing how to express them, not knowing what to do with them, it was really hard because I didn't have anybody around me to help me. And I did do lots of therapy. That's always a good thing to do. And then there came the realization one day that I actually, I needed help. I needed more help than what I could give myself. And so I did do a 12-step program. And that actually, was a lifesaver for me because I tried everything else to do and I didn't know what else to do. And it was coming to that realization that I just needed to stop,
Mm.
and I didn't realize that either. One of the things that was really amazing that happened through all this is because I'd lost my parents, because I'd lost other people in my family, I found an old journal that was like, I want to go to Italy, Greece, and Egypt. And when you lose people very quickly, it makes you realize I need to do things now. I don't want to wait until I retire. I don't want to put it off because we're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Mhm.
And that is something that you really realize that life is precious and we're not guaranteed these things. And so even though all these things I've gone through have been very painful, it's made me who I am. It's made me really be like, I want to go live my life. I don't want to wait. I don't want to, wait. Oh, wait till I retire. Wait till I'm 70. No, I want to do it now and have my life because if something does happen, then I know I won't have those regrets. I will have done what I wanted to do,
What was
and
that?
I think as women, we need to step into that.
That's yeah, I'm inspired by what you do, what you built, and how you've used your pain and trauma to create the life that you're living now. But what was that pivotal moment after got yourself like on the 12-step program? Like what was the pivotal moment that made you change? And like you had a 20-year massage career, and that's, you were talking about before the show how things change, and like you were like we're meant to become an accountant, which is totally different. So, you know, how did your career paths change from having a 20-year career as a massage therapist to now doing what you're doing and living a digital dream life, traveling and being able to have passive income? Because that's the juicy part we'll get to, but I want to lead up to, the changes up to that point and that pivotal moment.
Well, I tried several things. Honestly, I got my life insurance license, and I also, during the pandemic, I was actually doing funeral sales. Believe it or not, yeah, that was a pivotal moment in my life because I love learning, I love growth, I love a challenge, and there's a whole backstory behind all this. But I actually did into funeral sales, and I actually had a meeting with my Ayurvedic practitioner and I was dressed in black. I'd just come from a funeral home. She was like, "You're not happy." And I was like, "Yeah, but I can do this." And she's like, "Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should." And that was an awakening moment for me. I remember driving home and being like, what is it that I want? What do I want? And I knew I wanted to live by the beach. I wanted to be in a city that had great architecture and that was a walking city and that I could have peace. And, my mind jumped, oh, I'll do that when I retire. I can, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, I want to do it now. So after the riots we had in America and during COVID, I was like, I'm going to go to San Diego for my birthday. And then I was like, I'm going to move to Mexico. There wasn't a lot of thought in between those. It was a huge jump. But that year, I'd also made the commitment to myself to start healing, to let go of the anger, the pain, the resentment, the frustration I had from the accident, because I still have the issues from it. And I was like, I need to heal. I need to let all this go. And I need to actually create the life that I want.
That sounds beautiful. I wanted to touch back into that too, because um, I want to know about the first steps of, because everybody would love to have, like, not everybody, a lot of people want to have that, dream lifestyle of being able to travel, but sometimes it requires money and whatnot, and, the freedom to do what you want. And that takes a lot of time and courage as well, because sometimes people have commitments as well. But um, first of all, before we get into that, you mentioned that you had to heal from your accident. Tell us a bit about that, and because you had an accident before a trap. Like, tell us a little bit about that journey and how you had to
Yes.
heal from that as well.
And ironically, I actually got into massage therapy because I was hit by a semi.
A what? Sorry,
Back
a
in
semi
19.
truck. A
I,
semi truck.
ironically, I got into, yes, a semi truck. Uh,
Jeez.
Back in 1990, back in 2000, I was actually hit by a semi truck, and that's what opened the door for me to really pursue massage, acupuncture, and chiropractic, and the healing modalities. So, ironically, that got me into massage, and then the last car accident got me out of massage. Um, and unfortunately, I didn't have good practitioners that really saw what was going on with me. And so I was in a lot of pain. And we went through all the different treatments, all the modalities. And my doctor told me I could still do massage, which was the absolute worst advice. He was not really connected to what was going on with me. And once I made the connection that part of the reason I was in so much pain is that it was because I was still doing massage. I was getting headaches every day. I had all this tension. It was really awful. Like I was so much pain all the time. And when I actually decided to quit doing massage and pursue something else, it really started the healing journey. And then letting go of that. Like you have to let go of the resentment, the anger. Our bodies are made to heal, but when you hold on to all that, it can't heal. And I know better. I taught
Mm,
metaphysics for 7 years. I was massaged. I've done all these spiritual things. So I know better,
mm,
but still you just would be like, oh, because when
mm.
everything is kind of ripped away from you and you have to reinvent yourself, it's not easy. And so being willing to take that step and be like, okay, I'm ready to heal. I want to let this go. I have to move beyond this in order to really create a life that I love.
In
And
what?
I wasn't even at that stage.
When you went to yeah, because like you're right about the holding on to resentment too, and I'm reading a book about becoming supernatural with Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's a fascinating book. I love it. But he talks about all the things that we hold in our body, the anger, the resentment. It all gets stored as energy in our body, and it causes us pain. And it's just fascinating how our bodies try to tell us things, that we should listen to, because it's all energy. But obviously, things changed for you after you changed your career path. Is that right? Or did you have to do certain other healing modalities, like, to get release all that? And if so,
Well,
what was it?
I tried everything while I was doing massage, everything from chiropractic and the cortisone shots and dry needling, and we went through everything, and nothing was really working because I was still doing massage. So once I quit doing massage, that really helped. And actually, coming down to Mexico made a huge difference because in the states they were like, "Oh, you need a $300,000 surgery for your neck," and I was like, "No, we're not doing that." Because I know how to handle the pain I'm in right now. And if we start going in and moving things around and, cutting on things, like you don't know what you're going to end up with. And so I decided not to do that. And I didn't have $300,000 laying around either. So,
Mm.
but I knew that I could handle this myself. And so coming down to Mexico, I met all kinds of amazing healers. And one of the things that really I actually still use today is the Feldenkrais method.
The what method?
Actually, I moved the Feldenkrais. It's actually a modality that was created by an Israeli think doctor or physiotherapist.
Sounding
I forget
Christ?
his
Did you
exact
say sounding Christ? What was
Felden Feldenkrais. Feldenkrais. Feldenkrais.
Felding Christ?
Feldenkrais.
Oh wow. Okay. Sorry.
It's a
Tell us more.
modality. I know, right? I know. And I talk about this a little bit in my book also because I do talk about movement and different modalities for healing and for movement for women.
Mm.
Feldenkrais is a very gentle form of therapy. And what it helps to do is it helps to basically restructure how your muscles are working and how they're operating and how they're lifting. So that instead of just trying to like lift weights and get bigger and get stronger, you're actually kind of restructuring your body and how it responds in a very gentle way. So it's not do more, do harder, do it faster. It's like relax, do less, and let your body kind of guide you with it. So it's really amazing. And there's exercises I still do it with that today. And ironically, when I was in Zipolite, which is on the coast of Oaxaca, the first place I moved to in Mexico, there was a German woman that had her and her husband had been there since 1986. They have amazing cabanas, and she was trained in Feldenkrais, and she still is. And I talk about her in my book also. So doing the modality, it really made a huge difference. And then doing acupuncture and cranial sacral and physiotherapy and things like that just make a world of difference. But I talk about different modalities in my book.
I love
Just
it.
because a lot of people aren't familiar with them, and there's so many things out there that can help, especially, as we're getting older and progressing, we need different tools in our toolbox.
I love it too. Speaking about your book, the book title is pretty bold. It's called 50 Fabulous and
Yeah,
Effable, and it makes people stop. So, you know,
it does.
what, tell us a little bit about your book and what would people expect from that besides the, like you mentioned, the modalities and, why do
Mhm.
why, why that title?
It's kind of like a handbook for reinvention. Honestly, I didn't choose it, it chose me. That's the
Mm.
crazy thing. I actually wrote the book because I was terrified of turning 50. And so I wanted to be inspired and empowered by turning 50, not like, oh, I'm getting old and everything's falling apart. And no, I wanted to be inspired by it. And so the idea for the book came to me, and the idea for the title came to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, can I say that? Am I allowed to say that? Like, I don't know. And people have that reaction no matter where I'm at in the world. They have that reaction. They're like, and it's like it really comes to you. But I really think the book was divinely inspired, because everything just came to me. I didn't have to sit down and think about it or struggle with it. It all came to me. And so it was very intuitive,
I love it.
which I love, but it has been quite the process. And so the book is kind of like a handbook for being 50. It's inspiring, it's empowering. It talks about how you need to love your body, embrace it, especially the things you don't like about your body. And being in your 50s, it gives you a chance for more self care. So I actually talk about menopause as well, and that it's a sign to really take care of yourself, slow down, take a nap, get the massages, really figure out what your body needs instead of just trying to power through it like we usually do.
Mm.
And menopause is different for every woman. And it's nice that so many celebrities are opening that door now to have that conversation about menopause, because it didn't used to be something that was commonly talked about. So we've got self care, self love, body acceptance, menopause. I also talk about pre planning and funerals, just because you want to be prepared. If you're turning 50 and you don't have things in place, you need to have those in place. And then the benefit of movement and different modalities. Yeah, and also like some of the woo stuff like meditation, journaling. It really also with women, we tend to want to people please. We tend to want to be like, oh, here, let me do this for you, let me do that for you. And when you learn how to fill up your own cup instead of relying on other people or your partner to fill that up for you, it's much more rewarding. And we tend to get into this attitude of either or, like, oh, I can have this or I can have this. And it's like, no, you can have both.
Mm.
You can have your cake and eat it too. Like, you
Yes.
can have both. So to not limit yourself so much.
I know, like that was something that was a different thought that came to me from a guest as well, because it's like, oh, how do I have a family, run a business, and even a podcast? I want to do so much, and I want to succeed in all of them. And then she's like, well, why not? What's stopping you? You can have it all if you wanted to. It's just the thoughts in our mind and the limitations we put on ourselves,
Right.
because what we say and what we
Exactly.
think is so powerful.
Exactly. And a lot of times we do the future tripping. We're like, how is this going to work? How it's going to happen? And oh my gosh, if I have a child, then I can't do this or I can't have that. And it's like having a child can actually make you more resourceful, because then you actually have to really respond and respect your time. You're not going to waste so much time because, like, you know what? The kid's down. I got 20 minutes. I can do this. Or
Mm.
the kid's down. I'm going to take a nap and then, relax myself. So instead of it being a limitation, it can actually expand your awareness. It can expand who you are, and it can actually enhance your business and make you better at business instead of being a limitation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I
Yes,
mean, I use delegation, and as a leader, I actually,
yeah, yeah,
you know, I just thought about it last night too, because like I want to go to Canton Fair in China next year. And then I looked at the dates and I thought these dates don't align with the school holiday because I usually like to travel during the school holidays. But then I can't leave during school because she has her commitments that I have to, like, she's loves doing dance, and she has to do it every day. So, because she's selected.
right.
So the thing is, I thought, who can I, instead of how me doing it, I thought maybe I could make a leader out of my team and get them to do it. I'm like, that's brilliant. Like, just delegating sometimes and creating leaders as a leader will be able to get things done more efficiently, and it was going to be more cost effective for me anyway. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you do that because it's so hard, especially as women, to delegate and to have somebody else and hire help. Like
Mm,
so many women do not hire help when they need it.
mm,
And then they wonder why they're exhausted and they're burnt out and they're not enjoying their life because they're not making those changes and not being strategic. And they're limiting themselves. They're like, oh, I can't hire help. I can't have that. That's too expensive. It's like, no,
mm,
you can do that.
mm.
There's ways to make it cost effective and there's ways to make it fit into your life,
Yeah,
because you don't need to go and do everything. Even if
yeah,
it's just having like somebody deliver your groceries so you're not spending, an hour at, in the grocery store after you're off work and you're exhausted.
yeah.
Making those changes make a difference. So I'm,
Yeah,
I'm so proud of you. Good job. That's
yeah.
amazing.
I'm starting now as I grow. It's like, as because I have big goals and visions for my business, and it's more of not it's I see business as a puzzle, and I'm the puppet master as well, like trying to think out who could do, not how this is done, like me doing it. It's more of who would be the best person, how would I manage my time more better. And I'm always thinking of maximizing my time, and because I love listening to business books and reading about business and scaling, and all the big entrepreneurs, successful ones, are just, it's all about getting the right people in place. So that's, now it's all about every task. Who can I do? Who would be the best person to do this task, so that I can expand and grow the business in more strategic ways. So, but I love the fact that you also have what you created yourself is the freedom. That's what I want. Everybody wants that freedom and time, and that's what I'm aiming for too. Be able to do what I love and help make an impact with my team as well, and making them leaders. But also in doing that, I get the freedom as well to do what I love and to spend more time with my family and to grow the business. But I'm curious about you because you've created this lifestyle with freedom, and I'm curious to know how you did it, and to be able to live as a digital nomad and make money passively. So tell me about your story, and how can others do the same thing?
Okay. Okay. Absolutely. One thing I want to mention before I move to that, one thing that I love about what you're doing is that you're recognizing your own zone of genius and you're wanting to stay in your zone of genius instead of doing all the things that will pull you out of that. And that is so important, especially when you have your own business. And most people don't realize that they want to try and do everything. And there are
Mm,
things we just don't do well.
yeah.
Somebody
Yeah.
else can do it better, faster, easier, and they enjoy it more than you do.
Hmm.
So the fact that you have realized that and that you don't have to do everything yourself, I absolutely love it. I just had to mention that because I'm like, oh my gosh, you are operating your zone of genius, and I absolutely love that. That is amazing.
Yeah, because it's true though. When like I don't like doing my numbers, and it's tedious admin tasks. I'm not an admin person, and I realized, no, I need to hire somebody for the bookkeeping. Or if it comes to doing orders and things that I don't enjoy doing, it's like, no, I need to find, because you need to be in a zone where you love doing what what you're doing, and podcasting is one of them, and growing and sales is another that I really thoroughly enjoy, and that's helping the business as well. But I do want to ultimately have that freedom in the long run, and to expand and help others. That's essentially what I'm trying to build. But yeah, tell us a bit about your journey and how you're doing it.
Well, mine is very different than a lot of people's, to be honest, because a lot of people just have like an online job and that's, how they're able to work remotely and things like that, which is totally valid. And I actually started off with renting my house out. That's how I actually did it. And it looked very differently than what I thought it was going to look like. And I was super nervous because it's like, it's an investment. It's my asset. And so I was very nervous about this. And I actually thought, oh, well, I'm going to have to like sell everything and rent it out, like blah, 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 blah. And I went through all these different changes and ideas. So it wasn't just like one thing happened, like, oh, this is what it is. Like, no, it was changing and growing and morphing. And like, how is this going to work? And what is going to work for me? Because I thought I would sell everything and rent it out. Actually, I thought originally that I had roommates actually, and they would watch my dogs when I traveled, and that was part of the deal. And so I actually thought, oh, I'm just going to go and get my dogs, and I'll plug somebody else in, and that'll be great. No, because the person that I had, his wife was coming over from India, and he was leaving. And so I was like, this isn't going to work. So I had to change and grow. And you have to make those changes. It's not going to be like, oh, this is what it is. So it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And then it ended up being an Airbnb. And then it ended up using a different service. And the people that rented my house trashed it after I put $20,000 into it. So, and that was something I had to handle from afar.
Mm.
And that's when I was like, okay, this is not working. Let me go back to doing traveling nurses because it was during the pandemic. So I did that. So it's like
Travel
the
what, sorry?
changing and
Travel
growing and
insurance?
morphing. Traveling nurses,
Travel nurses.
traveling nurses. Yes,
Oh,
traveling
oh,
nurses. It's very big in the States. Nurses actually will go to different hospitals to work in different areas, and that's all they do. They go and travel to where they're needed. And so there was a great need for it during COVID.
mm.
And so I actually wanted to, instead of having all these random people in my house and having to deal with people that might actually damage my house again, I went with traveling nurses. So it's like the ideas can change and morph and grow, and it can be different. And it's scary. Okay. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's scary. And there are times you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And I don't know, do I want to do this? Um, but the freedom is really important to me. And I really love having a life that I can live that is different. And part of that realization came to me because I was like, I'm single. I had two dogs and I had a house. I'm like, I'm not putting anybody through college. Why am I staying in a house and in a town I don't even like and living a life I'm not passionate about when life is so short and I want to go and do other things? And I knew I wanted to live internationally and I thought it would be in Asia.
Mm.
However, during the pandemic, I was like, I'm moving to Mexico. It was not something I was planned. And that's another thing is sometimes those intuitive hits we get, we have to kind of run with because we can't plan and control and like hold on to everything so tightly. We have to realize there's also divine inspiration that we get. We get those downloads, and sometimes we're like, oh, that just sounds crazy. And everybody, I was like, yep, I'm moving to Mexico. And they're like, what? What do you mean you're going to move to Mexico? Like, you don't know Spanish. You don't know anybody there. Mexico's really dangerous. You can't do that. I had so many people tell me that. And I had been coming down to Mexico for a couple of years for dental work. And I loved it when I was down here. And so I turned a birthday trip to go to San Diego. And so, like, I'm moving to Mexico. And it is something I have put the absolute least amount of thought into ever. Like, there was no thought behind it whatsoever. I'm just like, I'm going to do this.
Did you have enough money saved up though? Because like to be able to
No,
move, no. So how
no,
did
I
you
didn't.
support yourself living in Mexico?
I rented out my house.
Oh, so
I
that
rented
was
out my
the
house. And
passive
so
income. Oh,
that was my passive income. And I really wish I would have done things a bit different because to me, I went from basically receiving what I was making as a massage therapist and passive income. And it blew my mind. I was like, this isn't real. Like, oh my gosh, this can't be happening. This isn't real. And so I unfortunately did not take some steps that I needed to take to make it a legitimate business because I
mm,
didn't think it was going to last. I was like, it just freaked me out. And we have those moments that were like, I don't know, is this real? Is this not real? And I was living in a little town on the coast of Oaxaca, the Pacific Ocean, in Zipolite. My rent was $300 a month. There really wasn't anything else in the town. Like, so my expenses were super, super low to live, you
oh, wow,
know?
that's amazing.
So,
And so,
yeah, so things are going to change and morph and grow. It's not always going to be what you think it's going to be. And so now I'm kind of like, I sold the house and I am actually learning other things to make me money, because I do think it's important to learn how. My goal is to be able to make money any place, anytime, anywhere. And that's a goal I've had for years. Okay. That
Mm.
is truly a goal I've had for years. And so I made the commitment last year to learn trading.
Oh, wow.
And I will say that has been a process. And I'm fortunate to
Mm.
be part of a Discord that is all about educational learning. However, I have had my own limitations and blocks with technology and things like that. And so it's taken me longer than I would like to actually make the progress I would like. However, I look at it as being a skill that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. It's not
Mm.
something that I'm doing, to make instant cash now. It's something that I want to understand and build and grow with, so that when I'm 70, I can be on a beach in Bali, making passive income in my sleep because my trades are doing well,
Mm. Yes.
and that's something I actually want to be able to teach women at some point in time after I really understand more of the depth and nuances of it.
Yeah, that's
And then
beautiful.
obviously,
Yep,
yeah,
go
it's
on.
because I think I'm s- I think women need to understand finances and understand how the market moves, and that it is energy. And that's the beauty of understanding the market. It is money, but it's all energy. Everything is energy. And
Mhm.
so seeing how it moves to me is very exciting. Um, for me, it's a little bit more challenging than other people because I do have, the addiction issues. So it can actually be the dopamine. And so I have to be aware of that. I have to watch it. And it has not been smooth sailing. It has not ended up like I would like.
Mm.
I thought I was going to double and triple my money and be living off interest by now. And that has not happened yet.
Yeah.
So things don't always turn out smooth like we think it's going to. Like in our mind, I'm like, this is going to happen. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be easy. No, 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 no. But the journey is worth it. And it really teaches you a lot about yourself and your resilience and who you are as a person.
Are you
And
trading
then also
are you trading crypto?
futures and
Sorry, crypto or
options.
futures and
I d-
options?
yes, and
Wow.
I've also done crypto too. And my biggest mistake with trading crypto is that I did not have an exit plan. I did not
Oh.
have an exit plan, and that is what has really wrecked me with that. And so I got into crypto back in 2021. A friend of mine was like, "Hey, invest in crypto and do this." So I took money out of my house to do that.
Mm.
Not a smart decision,
Mm.
because when the market tanks, all that money tanked too, and
Yep.
stories behind that as well. So
Mm.
not
Wow.
great. So I've lived through some stuff, but
It's
it's having the exit plan and understanding how the market moves. And once you learn how the market moves, you can trade anything. It doesn't matter if it's future options, crypto, you can understand it. And that is a goal that I have. But I realize I am very emotional. I'm also very sensitive and intuitive. And so you cannot have the emotions involved in it. You have to actually have a plan and then have an exit strategy, because your exit strategy could actually be more empowering than your entry. So that
wow.
is something I have been, and I've had mentors, I've taken classes, and like I've actually done the research on it because I had made a lot of bad decisions trying to understand trading before. And I made a commitment last year, like, I want to understand this and I want to
Mm.
be able to do it. And so it is a process. And some people, bless their hearts, they like take a course and they understand it in 3 weeks and they get it.
Mm.
I'm not like that. I have to do things the hard way, evidently. So
You know what I like
but
though?
it is
The fact that you're still willing to learn and at your age as well, because some people when they hit a certain age it's like the fear gets in, but the fact that what you're speaking, this is what I think is beautiful, is because that you're overcoming your fear and you're self-aware as well of what your weaknesses are, but you've got your strengths of just trying and overcoming that fear. And the fact that you use intuition, you've got that spiritual part of you from your past as well, but not many people tie in that spiritual with that technical and the business acumen. And that's what I love. This is so, we were talking about this before the episode aired. And, you know, I wanted to say that I love business, but I love money, learning about money, trading, investing, and growing wealth. But I also love so many different things about quantum physics, spirituality, and I'm trying to blend those two in because I think having that knowledge and that openness to learn, it helps you grow. And with that spirituality aspect too, it makes things easier and smoother. But the fact that you mentioned trading, I didn't know that before the conversation too, because I love, I invest in crypto and stocks as well. And the fact that you're doing it and you're learning, I don't do it like my partner does, but I like to listen and learn on YouTube. But for me, it's just fascinating. I'm inspired the fact that you're going and doing it yourself, so, kudos to you for doing that.
Well, I decided I really wanted to learn and understand it. And something I think you would be amazing at it if you actually like put some effort with it, because something you said, you're like, I love money. And
Mm,
being able to say that with no shame and no guilt, no like, oh,
mm,
just you're like,
mm.
I love money.
Oh,
And being
yeah.
able to really say that is amazing, because I grew up in the church and being in a spiritual group, and it was like,
Money is
you
evil.
know,
Money's the
money
root
isn't
of
spiritual.
causes. Is
Money
it
isn't
money's
spiritual.
Yeah, money's the root of all evils. That was the belief. Money doesn't
Exactly.
grow on tree. No, I've learned from a lot lately about the how we speak about money, and I love money because it enables me to look after the people that I love and to provide and to look after my team to be able to enjoy the things. So why not be honest and say it? I do love money and I love making money and I love making money work for me. And a lot of people are like, oh, but the opportunities that it creates by having money and helping others, not just for me, but it fulfills me knowing that I can contribute to my team and their families and and make a difference in people's lives, and that's why I love money. But go on.
Exactly. And that is so important, because as women, we need to have the why.
Mm,
With men, they'll go out and buy the expensive watches, the cars, whatever. But with women, we have to have the why. The why has to be really powerful, and it has to be something that's kind of greater than ourselves. It's usually helping other people, helping the environment, helping the communities. Because when we put money in the hands of women that want to do good, it just amplifies everything, and it lifts up the energy of everybody and everything. And
mm.
so it's really powerful. So you saying that is really amazing. And I love that. I absolutely love that, because you just have so much clarity around it. And that is so incredible and so necessary.
Yeah, I'm still working. Like I had to work around certain beliefs as well, and
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with nothing and very poor. And I think, there were times when growing up with me and my brothers and raised by my single mum, we didn't have any food in the cupboard once, and I still have this memory to these days. Like we were waiting
Mm-hmm.
for her to come home from work, and we opened the cupboards, and the only thing to eat was Vietnamese rice paper rolls. They're like dry sheets of rice paper. And that's all we ate, and
Right.
we were like happy with that. And that memory to this day still stays with me because we had nothing. My room was bare, but
Mm-hmm.
my kids won't have to go through that. We got now, me growing up now, like there's always so much food in the house. It's so much that we waste so much, and I still feel bad about wasting food. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just the beliefs growing up, what we had to overcome about the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
money, which I've had to learn that. And sometimes subconsciously too, when I get money, it's like, what can I invest
Mm-hmm.
in? What can I spend, to just make sure that it's all spent. Like for me, it's the business. Like we need to buy this stock and buy that. Like spend, 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 and that's something that I'm still working on. So that I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to get some actual help and eventually uh, a CFO to manage the book so that we continuously have cash flow and spend it wisely and make data decisions properly. But I still had that mindset of, oh, money just came in quick. We need to buy this much stock. We need to make sure
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. So that's something that I have
Mm-hmm.
to overcome because I'm being more self aware of it now and trying to, I like to make my money work for me, So,
I
but
was
I
going to
like to
say
spend
that.
it all. Yeah, I like to spend it on spend. And that's,
It's
so
good
yeah.
though too, though, because money is an energy, and it's kind of like a flowing river. And so a lot of times, especially having grown up poor, like I grew up in a very poor family too, and my grandmother she like held on to money.
Oh,
She worked
hoarding
really hard,
money.
but she would
Yeah.
hold on to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yet my mother would spend money she didn't have on credit cards. So there was like two different
Mm,
extremes. And so I do tend to kind of hold on to it and not spend it as freely sometimes. And that's something I've really had to work on to up level my life, my thinking, and to upgrade everything, instead of being like, oh, I can't spend this because it's like, no, I want to enjoy it.
mm,
And that is because money is meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be
mm,
used. And I love the fact, like you say, something a lot of rich people do and business owners do. Money should have a job. Money
mm.
should be working for you. Every dollar you have should be working for you. It shouldn't just be sitting. And when you like don't spend it and you're afraid to spend it, that's a whole different kind of energy.
Yeah.
Something else is I also grew up with the saying that money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, that's not true because money is paper,
And it,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Exactly. And where does paper come from? It comes from trees.
What do you think
So,
some of the
you know,
belief
and
systems we need to tell ourselves in order to change the way we think about money if we grew up with these type of different belief systems as well?
well, definitely some of the things that we've been talking about. And this is something that I have actually really had to explore myself. And there are still things I need to change and tweak, but I've taken a lot of different, very expensive money courses, let me tell you. Yeah, oh, yeah. I've done a lot of work on it myself, to be honest,
Yeah,
because
but you've
because how
invested.
I grew up in my thinking, and
That's an
yeah,
investment into
I've
yourself, and
invested
that,
a lot of money myself.
yeah. So these
Oh
courses,
yeah,
go tell us
I've
about
spent
these
a good
courses.
four. Yes, well, I did. Well, what's interesting is that they really didn't work for me. Like I've learned a lot from them, but they
Oh,
haven't actually worked for me to the degree they've worked for other people. So there's still things that I need to work on.
mm,
Yeah, no, I took Amanda Francis's money mentality makeover. That didn't really work. And then I've also taken Denise Denfeld Thomas, and I've read Jensen Shero, and I've done a lot of other money work too, because I know growing up in a poor family, and then also being in the church and being in a spiritual group, it's like money wasn't spiritual. And so that was a big thing for me. And for me, a big aha moment came back in 2018 when I went to the Millionaire Mindsets by T. Harv Eker, one of his courses. I don't know. Have you ever heard of The Secret of the Millionaire Mind by T.
that
Harv
sounds
Eker?
very familiar. Millionaire
Yeah,
mindset. Is it? There's a
Millionaire Mindset.
course.
It's a whole course he has.
Oh,
And
okay.
a friend of mine took me to that. I wasn't even supposed to be in town to go to it. He took me to that, and I had the biggest aha moment. And we've kind of touched on this already, but when you have money, you can actually help more people. Because I always thought that I shouldn't have money. It's like, it's more noble to be poor, and to
That was a
help
belief
people
system
in
that
other ways.
you had to overcome that belief
Hmm.
system. It's like questioning these
Exactly.
certain belief systems. Interesting. What else did you learn from that? That really key
So
takeaways.
I, I learned that you can put a lot of courses on your credit card really quickly.
Uh,
I bought all the courses. I did. I was at a point in my life where I really needed to change, and I knew that. And so I spent like I think it was ten or $12,000 that weekend.
Whoa.
Yeah, I bought the whole package, babe. I spent about $50,000 on my education
That's
and
good.
invested in myself because you are the best investment you will ever make.
Yep.
You know, once you learn those things, they cannot be taken away from you, and they're always going to help you build and grow and change. Um, and that's the beauty of life because you can always up level, you can always learn and grow. But if you just take that money and throw it on a new car,
Mm,
that car's going to depreciate.
yeah.
And then it's going to become a liability because at some point you're going to have to start making repairs and fixing it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you invest in yourself, then you're going to have the tools to kind of change and move and grow and figure out what you need next, what your next learning is, and how you can expand more.
After you spent
So
that
yeah,
much on the weekend, though, did you get some really good nuggets out of it? Other good nuggets, or?
I I did. There's so many. One of the other things that T. Harv Eker talks about is that he has the idea of the money thermostat, just like we have thermostats in our house.
I've heard
We
of
can
this.
adjust the heating.
What we're
We can
used to
adjust
at a
the heating.
certain level, yeah?
Exactly. We tend to maintain the income that we have. So, in order to actually increase the amount, you have to change the thermostat and the setting and your beliefs, and you have to actually work at raising that bar. And what typically happens, even though you raise it, then something will happen and you'll get scared and it'll come back down. Or it might even go lower than what you're used to, and you're like, oh my goodness. Then you have to raise it back up again. And you can actually increase it so you actually can make more and more money. But you have to be able to hold that energetically as well, which makes a huge difference. But
Do
yeah,
you have
I love the course. Mm-hmm.
do you have any other books that have really inspired you and helped you besides, that course, but any, either business books or mindset books that have helped you on your journey?
Mm-hmm. I love Jen Sincero. Absolutely love Jen Sincero. Her You're a Badass series. Like, You Are a
Mm.
Badass at Making Money. I love that book. And I sincerely believe that if you read no other book, read that book and do the exercises in it, and you won't have to pay for all the fancy courses, because
Oh.
she really walks you through everything in her book, and it's amazing. And I still go back and reread parts of that. But so I love her stuff. I also love Denise Dunfield Thomas. She has 4 different books out, and she actually really talks to women and to practitioners that are like in the healing field and things like that, as far as up leveling your business, your practice, and taking care of yourself. Because a lot of times as women, we will charge less for what we're doing, and then we're working more and we're not taking care of ourselves. And so she's really big on making sure that you are charging what you're worth, and that you are taking really good care of yourself, because then you can take care of your clients. Because we tend to feel guilty for charging more, and she's like, don't feel guilty about it, because when you're making more money and working less, then you can actually, do other things that give back to the community. Like, you can have free courses, you can have free webinars, you could do free sessions or things if you want, and you can get the discounts that you want to give, but don't undervalue yourself. Don't, do yourself a disservice in that way. And so I think that's really important too. And she also talks about up leveling your life in increments, because so many people are like, oh, I'm going to do that when I get rich. Oh, when I get
Mm.
rich, I'm going to go travel. When I get rich, then I'm going to buy, the car. When I get rich, I'll be able to dress that way. No, you have to start doing the increments now, and you have to start really utilizing things in your life now. Like, don't save your fancy perfume just for, date nights or just for special occasions. Use it. Don't save your fancy dishes or china for your guests. Use them for yourself. Buy
Yeah.
yourself the really good tea. Buy yourself the really good chocolate, because it's really like a couple dollars difference. And the enjoyment factor is huge.
Mm.
It makes such a difference when you are able to give that pleasure to yourself, especially as a woman, and really feel like, okay, I deserve this. You
Yeah.
know, this is
Mm.
part of who I am, and taking those incremental steps. So, because who you are now is going to be amplified when you have money. So if
Yeah.
you're not able to spend money on yourself now, you're not able to enjoy things now, you're not going to enjoy them when you have money. It's not going to
Mm.
feel right. You're not going to understand it. And a lot of times when people up level too quickly, they lose the money because they're not able to hold it energetically, and they don't feel worthy of it.
Oh,
That happened
speaking
to
of that.
me.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to dive into that a little bit, but
Oh
yeah.
no. Oh no. I said too much.
No, but you're right about the money thing, because it's all about perception as well. Because when I had a guest on previously, and he was very wealthy, and he talked about how he travels every month, and I'm like, to what, every month for a week? And that's what he did, and that I'd never had that concept of traveling every month, because I thought every 3 months. Oh, that must be bad. That's spoiling myself. But really, I have to travel for business as well. So, um, but I still get to enjoy the travel, and um, it just changed my perception. So, the things that you can do with money. But I'm fascinated now that you've mentioned the energy part, and I do believe that energy is money as well, and that's why you got to speak positively about it. And when you mentioned you have to stay in that energy or you lose it, can you elaborate a little bit about that? Because when some people get a whole bunch of money in one go, like, they're not used to that. And like, if they win the lotto, they're not used to that and they lose it, or the energy. I don't know. Tell me a little bit about that in terms of not everyone will win the lotto, but in business terms
Right.
or
Exactly.
self worth.
Exactly.
Can you go a little, give us some your thoughts on the energy and how do we stay in that?
It's really about raising your vibration and knowing that you're worthy of it and knowing that you deserve it. And you do not have to make excuses for it. You do not have to give your give your power over other people. So one of my things, and I saw my mother do this, she was constantly giving money um, to her boyfriends or things like that, and she was constantly giving away her power, and I did not realize I had picked that up. I was, and I'm a very generous person. I love to give. I love to support other people. I love to take care of people. I'm a natural caregiver. That's why I was so good at my job. However, what I didn't realize is that I did not feel worthy of receiving the money. I felt like I had to work hard because I was taught you have to work hard to make money. If you want to
Mm.
make more money, you need to get another job. You need to have 2 jobs. You need to have 3 jobs. You need to be working to make that money. My grandmother was a dishwasher at a truck stop, and my mother was a cashier. My mother worked 2 and 3 jobs after she got divorced. So yeah, I come from a long line of hardworking women. And so to passively receive money, have it just show up magically in my account every month, there was a part that I was like, oh, this isn't gonna last. Oh, it made me really uncomfortable in a way, to be honest.
So how did you
And
overcome
so the
that?
money, exactly. And so the money did not stick around. And
Oh.
I actually ended up making some bad investments with some fraudulent companies that I didn't realize. And the money went away. And
Mm.
it's really interesting because having that experience of having the money in the account, because when you have money, you have this ease, this grace, this relaxation that you don't have when you're struggling and hustling and always worrying about money. You do have this, like, you can exhale, you can relax, you can breathe, it can flow. But
Mhm.
then when you're worried about money, you tense up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's not gonna, where is it? It's not coming. Like, what's happening? And now I've been on both extremes, and I used to live paycheck to paycheck. And so having, large amounts of money in my account, it felt abnormal. And it was really interesting because I actually went and traveled for a whole year in Europe and yeah, Europe and Turkey. I met somebody, long story behind that. You don't want to hear about that. Yeah. But it's like you have to feel worthy and you have to know that you deserve to have the money. Otherwise, the money is not going to stick around. You will give your power away. And that is something I realized that I personally was doing. And I'm like, oh my God, I was afraid of my money. I was afraid of handling it. I didn't know how to work with it. And so it ended up leaving.
Did you
And
end
that
up
was a
getting
really
help
hard.
with money to handle your money afterwards when a
Mhm.
financial advisor or someone to help you manage, or did you just budget?
Oh, I never budget. I don't believe in budgeting. I don't believe in budgeting. Like,
Mm.
I believe in my desires and what I want. That I do believe in. But financial advisors and things like that, you have to really find the right one. And the best way to do that is to ask people that you know, because I looked around for financial advisors, and what most people don't realize is that people that are financial advisors, sometimes they are compensation based. So they are not
Mm.
actually acting in your best interest. They are actually trying to sell you products, and they base that decision not on your financial need, but on what they are receiving commission on and whatever that product is that month. So you
Mm.
actually have to be really careful with that. And that's something that people have to be aware of. And as women, getting a hold of your finances and learning and realizing what the numbers are is really important. And that is something that, we go through phases with. I thought the money was never going to run out. I was wrong.
Mm. Mm.
And so now it's about recreating everything in a passive way that is actually going to help more people have a bigger impact and to help people in a much greater way. And there's something else that T. Harv Eker says is that when you help more people, you make more money.
Mm.
And so if you want to make more money, you help more people.
Wow,
So
I love
yeah.
that. That is so
And
beautiful.
yes, and that's something that you're doing too, which I absolutely love. I love what you're doing and that you have this expansive consciousness and that you want to do these really amazing things. Oh, I do want to touch on one more thing because I
Yep.
know we're running out of time. But what you talked about was traveling.
Mhm.
Traveling is so incredibly important because it is the easiest way to literally change your reality. And when you change
Mm.
your reality, you change your perception and how you interact with your environment and who you are. Like, depending on where you're at, it's going to be how you're acting and responding to the situations in your life. And so traveling does not have to take a lot of money. And that's something people have a misconception with. Yes, if you want to go and stay in like the Four Seasons all the time, you might want to use some credit card miles for that. You might want to get creative with that, or you might just want to write it off as a business expense. But
Mm.
for other people that may not have the resources, I started traveling by doing couch surfing and staying in hostels.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yep, weekend stuff.
I bootstrapped my trips. And to me, it wasn't about where I was staying because I love people, I love community, so the hostels were great. But it's really about having that experience. And when you give yourself that experience, it will change who you are. Because if I waited to be able to afford to travel, I never would have done it. And so I did it not knowing how I was really going to do it and bootstrapping it. And people that are really successful, they don't do just a vacation here and there. They will take off a complete week out of their month. So they will travel every 3 weeks, or take getaways every weekend,
Mm.
because you have to have that downtime. You have to have that recharge time, because that's when you're going to get your best ideas. When you're hustling and grinding and pushing yourself and trying to do it, it doesn't work. But when you're relaxed, you're going to have the most incredible ideas laying on the beach, hanging out with your kids. That's when, yeah, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, there's my $1 million idea. Like, I didn't know just relaxing can make that happen. And
Yes.
so being able to travel is really, it changes who you are, and it can change your life. It changed my life dramatically. And so I always encourage people to travel. And even if you don't think you can also do house sitting, pet sitting. You can find a way. As women, especially, okay, as women, if there's something we really want, we will figure it out.
Mm.
Where there's a
Mm.
will, there's a way. So
I
I
love
just
that.
really love to encourage women and to travel, to explore the world. And my bigger vision actually is to create co-living spaces around the world where women can feel safe to travel and to support each other and learn and grow and change. That's like my bigger vision. The book is the doorway to open all that up.
I love that. That's powerful. And I do agree about that traveling and how in that relaxed state things come to you, because I've heard it from guests as well. It's when I was before COVID, I was in Vietnam, it was the best trip ever. But during that time,
Nice.
yeah, I had opportunities just keep coming to me because I don't know if it was the water, the beach view, but the relaxed state. It just, there was
Mm-hmm.
no hustle
Mm-hmm.
and grind, and it was more allowing that all the opportunities to come, and it will, depending on the energy that we're in.
Exactly.
So we have to be at that right energy. And I love the fact that you said taking time out every few weeks, um, and having that balance too, because as entrepreneurs, we hustle. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of us hustle and forget that we need that downtime as well. But no, I've just that inspired me to travel more, because I'm just starting to plan more trips for business as well. And you can, that's the beauty of having a business, because you can expense it if you're going there
Mm-hmm.
for purposes as well, but you can still enjoy it and meet people and enjoy the culture.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And you never know who you're going to meet or what opportunities will come your way. The other thing is, as women, we tend to wait to be given permission to do things and to
mm,
enjoy things. And don't give yourself the permission to live the life you want and to have those experiences and to travel and to have the freedom that you want in your life. You do not need to wait for permission. You do not need to wait for somebody else to tell you it's okay. You make it okay.
mm. What do you think you'd tell your younger self now if you could go back in time?
I would do so many things differently, to be honest. One of the biggest things, I was in a very abusive relationship. It was my first relationship. It was 13 years. And I stayed in that relationship because it was like, oh, if you love somebody, it's going to work out. If you love somebody, it's going to work out. No, it does not.
Mm,
In order to have a successful relationship, you need to have common goals, ideals, and be going in the kind of the same trajectory, you know. And unfortunately, I did not leave soon enough. I should never have been in the relationship to begin with. And I think that is kind of the fallacy of growing up on Disney movies. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
we think that it's going to work out. It's going to work out. If you love is all you need. If you love the person, it's going to work out. It's going to be great. No, it's
Mm,
not. Sometimes you need to cut your losses and value yourself more than you value that other person. Because when you value you, when you love you, when you respect yourself, you will attract the people that will naturally respect and love you as well. But when you're waiting for validation from somebody else, when you're giving everything you have to somebody else, hoping that they're going to like notice you or accept you or love you because you're giving them so much, that is a recipe for disaster. I would definitely tell my younger self that, because that would have changed the trajectory of my life.
that's
But
beautiful.
we're here now, so who knows what's going to happen next?
I learned the same. I regretted my relationship for a while, my first relationship, but then now that I've studied some spiritual things, it's everything happened for a reason, and that was making, like, the lessons that I learned from that about myself, the self-worth part. That was another thing that was a major lesson. And now to be able to thank that my ex for all the lessons that I learned and what not to do, and what I deserve in life. Every chapter of my life, there was all the dark times. It just has led me to where I am now, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for the lessons and the challenges. So we have to, for me personally, I just look when I look back at all the things. I do regret a lot of things too, but it's made me who I am today. And I just think, what lessons did I learn from that? So that's the way I see it.
Exactly.
Is there any?
Exactly. And hopefully we're not making the same mistakes. And if we are, then we eventually will learn from them and make new ones.
That's true. Is there any key
Because
message
life
you
is
want to?
about learning. Life is
Exactly.
about learning. So yeah. Anyway,
Is there anything that you want to
anything.
leave with anything that you want to leave with the audience? Anything that we've missed? Any advice? And where can they find you as well?
Okay, great. The main thing is that there's always hope. If I can go through all the different things I have gone through in my life and come out on the other side to have created a life that I love and transformed very quickly in just a few short years, you can too. And so there's always hope. There's always that possibility. There's always something greater. So no matter where you're at in your life, what you're going through, you can change it. You can change it. You can have a life that you want. You can create those things in your life. And so you can actually find the book on Amazon. It is on pre-sale right now. And then I'm also on TikTok and Instagram at Transform Be Courageous. And then I also have a hub. It's beacons.ai/transform be courageous, where I have all my courses. So if you want to learn how to transform your life, I have courses on that. So definitely hook me up, or coaching is always great too. I have those options as well. The thing also about coaching and taking online courses is that if you really want to change and grow, you have to start thinking differently. You have to start doing different things, and you have to learn things that are different and replace the thoughts that you have. And so having coaches and taking online courses can actually help you to actually shorten the time that it takes you to make those changes. Because if you're trying to learn all yourself and piece it together, it takes so much longer.
Mm,
So I think online courses and coaches are very valuable because it can help shorten that time that it would take you to learn on your own.
yes, I agree. Thank you so much for your time, Tina. It's been
Thank
a pleasure.
you.